All right, welcome to For Action Takers Only. Tonight we got on Jeff Smith. I met Jeff Smith a couple months ago when joining SubTo and then hitting the Houston Power Hour. He has been a wealth of knowledge in sales, and I'm just going to bring him on in and let him start talking. How's it going, Jeff?
Dude, it's going good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on, man. I really appreciate it. So, what you been up to?
Oh, just this past week, I've actually been working through several of the deals we have under contract. I actually had to change over some of them that were in cash deals and convert them into creative because otherwise they weren't going to pan out and the sellers were going to lose even more money.
Yeah, I see. I hear you guys been very busy over there, getting a lot of deals closed. So that's cool. It's good to hear. Are you all partnering up with a lot of people? Do you do a lot of JV deals?
So what we're doing right now is really focused in on a PPL model, which is pay per lead. There's a
Okay.
handful of companies who do this, so we've really ratcheted that up high for the past 2.5 months. And starting next month, we're going to start augmenting that with a PPC campaign, pay per click.
Okay. Okay. So, all right, can you share a bit about your background and how you got started into sales, like with real estate and SubTo?
Yeah, so really where this got started, I was in the oil and gas world for a very long time, engineering, construction, and I went overseas to the Middle East for 3 years. I was in Saudi Arabia. Came back with a pretty good war chest from working so hard over there, and I started to think about, okay, I'm in this new position. I feel like I have more capacity, and I started looking around for different things and started tinkering with real estate. Eventually is where I landed and started working on that more and more and more. And really there's a difference, when it comes to the sales aspect. There's a very big difference between selling a construction project versus doing what we're doing, which is negotiating acquisition of a house or multifamily or whatever it is.
Hmm.
In the oil and gas world, it's responding to requests for quote. I'll make a proposal and I'm negotiating the contract T's and C's. It's not really selling exactly.
Right.
But on this side, now it's, what is the problem I'm trying to discover? How do I quantify the consequence? How do I get this person to realize that what I'm offering them is really, really good for them? So it's a different skill set that I had to learn.
Okay. So, how much of a struggle was it when you first started?
It was it's tougher than people think. Because I've had so much practice, because I've studied this so hard, I make it look easy. Because
Hmm.
of course you do. You watch professional athletes, they make it look easy. You didn't see all the reps that they went through to get there. Like when I first started calling, I was literally shaking. And I tell
Yeah.
this story all the time. When I came into SubTo, they were doing a closer tournament just for fun. And I remember distinctly, it was like my second day in SubTo listening to this. And I
Hmm.
remember thinking, there's no freaking way I'm going to be this good. I'll be okay. I can talk decently enough. I'll never be this kind of master like I'm hearing. And now
Okay.
I'm a sales coach. The struggle for me was understanding how to wield these questions we've been taught. Give me this whole litany list of questions, and I don't know how to use them. It's like giving a surgeon, here's all the tools, go figure it out and do surgery.
Right. It's been a struggle. I know. I've had the same thoughts. I'm like, I come in and I saw you, and geez, these guys make it look simple. Pace makes it look very simple. And I'm like, I just don't. I can talk to people. I can hold a conversation. I do some of the sales. I'm on the other side of what you're talking about. I sell drones to the oil and gas company. So we always have to. We're back and forth negotiating, like you're saying, and it's a different ballpark. Definitely a
Right.
different ballpark. So can you tell me the story about Houston Power Hour and how you got involved in that?
Yeah. So what happened was Pace was doing his golden ticket event for a while, and we decided we're just going to fly out there and crash the party because why ask for permission when you can just show up? So we go and do
All
that,
right.
and during the event, they break people off into groups and say, "Hey, everybody, just start calling your list." And of course, I love this because I'm on the phone all the time. I've gotten good at it. So I'm in this group and we're pounding away on the phones, and this goes on for about 2 hours. And I'm thinking, man, that was fun. Like the energy is great. I'm helping people get better on the phones. This is fantastic. We should do this in Houston. And oh, by the way, I need to keep myself accountable that I'm calling my buyers. That's really what I was thinking about. I can hold myself accountable. I can help other people. So come back and say, hey, Houston, we're going to meet up at Rudy's Barbecue. We're going to make calls. And I will call your leads if you want to, but I have to do some work. Come hang out. So it started with 6 people. We actually had to change venues, go to Regina's apartment, did it there. And then next week we were at Rudy's Barbecue and we had 10 people. And then it became 12 and then 18, 20. And next thing you know, we had 30 people and just, spilling out the door. And that's when we had to graduate to some bigger venues.
All right. So how long has the Power Hour been going on now?
We started in January 2023. So
Okay.
it is a relatively young thing, but we do it every single Saturday.
Right. Now you started a podcast and you also have a Facebook group to support it too, right?
Yeah, the podcast is very recent. That's only about a month old because we were getting so many questions from new people. So we said, well, why don't we just dedicate a section of time? We can be this panel. And if other people just want to continue calling, obviously they're more than welcome to, but we're going to step out and do this over here.
Okay. So you're going to do that as part of the Power Hour every week now?
Yep. So it kicks off at 10 o'clock, 2 hours of calling. Podcast starts at 11. So if people want to take a break, they have questions, they come hang out with us or they keep going.
Oh, I can't wait to get out there and check that out.
Yeah, man.
So what are some key principles or strategies that have contributed to your success in sales? What would you say has gotten you to the point you are today?
So there's 2 main schools of sales thought that I subscribe to. The Sandler system, which of course has been a main staple in the real estate investing community. It really does a great job of contemplating the complete process from the Sandler submarine is really the epitome of this, where you can go from the very beginning of bonding a report and it contemplates all the way to the post sale, which is a section that a lot of people forget. Like you have to set expectations for what's going to happen now that they've executed the contract. You're not done yet until that sucker closes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other very good things. You can go on YouTube. They have kind of their 49 rules, which is a very great video series. Highly recommend people go watch that. The other school of thought that that has really helped me is Spin Selling by Neil Rackham.
Okay.
So this book it's essentially a research paper. It's really what it is. It reads like that, which to me as an engineer brain is just fantastic. And this really contemplates, like we were talking about with the surgeon's tools. How do you wield these questions? Instead of giving me a laundry list, let me understand how these questions work. How do I phrase them in a way that someone's going to respond? How do I know why this question works in one instance, but doesn't seem to work over here? How do I get the seller to explain to me what they're looking for? How do I need to think in terms of moving this conversation forward? Because I can't just call to check in all the time. How do I push the ball down the field and get a touchdown? Spin talks about that to me a bit better than Sandler does, but Spin also doesn't contemplate certain things that Sandler does. So, I utilize both of them to create my own style.
Okay. I was going to ask you about those books. I always see that when you always have one sitting back up over there when you're live. So, all right, how do you approach building and maintaining strong relationships with clients and customers?
The biggest lesson I've learned, and I've experienced it just this week as I'm working with sellers now, it's setting expectations. Setting the expectations. Here is what is about to happen. We actually just talked about it on our podcast today at Power Hour. And so the idea, you get this purchase contract, you're going to buy this house, you got the victory, right? And now it's to start to tell this new client, here's what's going to happen next. You're going to get a phone call from the title company. You're going to get a phone call from my partner, Andrew, on the dispo side. You're probably going to get a call from Angela, the transaction coordinator. You probably are going to get a call from Evan, our inspector. And then the other thing, you're going to get regular updates from me. And, there's going to be just work ahead of us. You're going to have to, fill in all the papers and stuff. And oh, by the way, Mr. and Ms. Seller, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to happen. But in my experience, there's always some hiccup along the way. Doesn't mean we're not going to do the deal. Doesn't mean this is a crisis, but something is going to pop up. Sometimes it's really easy, sometimes they're hard. But as long as you and I are in open communication, we can work through 99% of these things. So I've mentally rehearsed them for what's going to happen. And that way, when that hiccup does happen, when Evan the inspector does call, they're like, oh, yeah, I already know. Yeah, no problem. So that is the way I ensure, post sale from Sandler, is I ensure that they're going to stick with me to the end. And my relationship is so strong because they're like, wow, it went exactly the way Jeff said it would.
So you build the expectations from the get-go.
100%. Every call set the expectation. Here's what we're about to talk about. When I call you again, here's what we're going to do next.
Okay. So tell us about your first deal. How did that go in SubTo? How did your first deal go along?
My first SubTo transaction, or just my first ever deal?
First ever deal.
All right. So the first ever deal.
I got a smile out of you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody always loves talking about the first one. It's a little boring, but
Right.
it was an on-market deal, and it was a pair of fourplexes, and they were just being sold at a good rate. Had Section 8 in it, and there was a property manager in place, and I'd come back from the Middle East. I had a little bit of money, so all right, let her rip. So I went straight to 100 and had 8 doors before I knew it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did it go smooth? I mean, you said you had some problems with some. How about like SubTo? What kind of problems did you approach on your first few deals in SubTo, learning about, say, subject to and creative finance? Did you run across a lot of issues with that?
The biggest problems when you get started doing a SubTo transaction is you don't realize how important the paperwork is sometimes. You don't quite realize how important having a good escrow team at title is, or having an attorney to run that for you. You never quite realize how important having the right insurance person is available, especially if you do a wrap, that all has to be in line. And so there's tons of these things. You just kind of bash through these various walls and go, oh my God, I'm never going to do that again. Oh, wow, I'm never going to do that again. Lesson learned. The school of hard knocks is very expensive, but it's the best education out there. I wish I hadn't enrolled in it so many times.
All right. Can you share a memorable sales experience or a challenging situation you encountered and how you overcame it?
Okay. So the origin story for me, why I was so determined to master sales, is because I had a VA who was cold calling a variety of lists: absentee owner, eviction, vacancy, probate, all things, right? And one day she encounters this probate lead, and he says, yeah, I am looking to sell the property. We've got, probates in process, and we want to sell this thing. And all these wholesalers are calling me. No one's giving me an offer. I'm irritated. So, okay. So I look at this thing and I go, holy cow. I can see why no wholesalers making any offers on it. Like, no flips are going on. But what is going on is that there are some developers in the area, and they're building townhouses. And this guy's property is sitting on an acre. I was like, whoa, wow, how about that? So I make a few phone calls. The developer, I don't tell him the address, but the developer basically says, hey, listen, yeah, I'd buy an acre out there. For an acre, I'd buy it about $7 a square foot. If you multiply that out, that's like $300,000 an acre. Okay, that sounds cool. This guy's got 1 acre. Call him back. Say, hey, I think we might have something. How much are you hoping to get here? He says, you know what? If I could get $180,000 for this thing, I'd be really happy. Wait a minute, I'm an engineer, but I don't math very well. 300 minus 180, I'm kind of freaking out right now. And then he drops a second bomb. I say, hey, wait, by the way, I just noticed the adjacent piece of property has the same last name as you. Are these relatives at all? He says, oh, yeah. And matter of fact, they were interested in selling too. I'm staring down a $250,000 assignment fee if I do this right.
Mhm.
And I am having a mental breakdown
Oh, yeah.
because I'm not confident I can close him. I don't know what to do or what to say to him. I'm freaking out. I haven't studied any of this yet, at least not to the extent that I should have. Like, I've gotten the script. I got the
Okay.
cold call. I got more cold call and follow up scripts I know what to do with. I don't have really a closing script, nor do I have the confidence that, like, what if I screw this up? And
Mhm.
so I start off with Steve Trang, who runs Real Estate Disruptors. Great course, learned a lot, and worked through it, and eventually got the contract, got the assignment. I do some of my own sales training now. There's other sales trainer out there who's really good, but that's where I started.
Okay.
Anyway, the moral of this story was I kind of looked at this whole deal and I said, I will never be in the same mindset again of where I've got a deal like that lined up and I'm not confident I can close them, that I don't know the steps that are required. That doesn't mean I'll never get nervous about it. It doesn't mean I'm not going to get, kind of excited, a little jittery, but I'm not going to have this mindset of I don't have the first clue of what to do. And so we eventually closed that deal. It was difficult. Title work was really extreme. God bless Regina for working through a lot of that. Regina White, who's my business partner, she worked super hard on it. And about 7 months later, we had our first land development deal we assigned and made 200 grand on it.
Awesome. Awesome. So in your opinion, what are the most important skills or quality that a successful salesperson should possess?
Your most important skill, as ridiculous as it sounds, is your ability to actively listen.
Okay.
It seems ridiculous that listening is a skill, and yet it is. The ability to just pay attention and to hear the breadcrumbs being dropped. Say, oh, this person just made that comment. I wonder if they're explaining blah, 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 blah. I wonder if that's what's going on. So, a lot of people, they're always thinking, what do I say next? But a true master salesperson, a closer, is more focused on what the person's saying because they want to understand what the problems and the issues are. Because if you truly can understand what they're facing and what they're dealing with, then when you bring your presentation of the solution, the prescription, the medicine, you can say, listen, I know exactly what you're dealing with. I know exactly what will happen if we don't do anything. And here's how this solution lines up with your problem. And if you're not actively listening and paying attention, you will miss all of it.
Yeah, I've noticed that is a skill. Just dealing with people is a skill on itself, and then listening is a separate skill from dealing with people. So I got to learn a whole bunch of new people skills, huh, when you get into sales.
When I was working, I had this part-time job at a Texaco gas station in high school, and the guy says, "Jeff, you're going to learn a little bit about cars and a lot about people." And I feel like
Mhm.
it's the same thing in real estate. You're going to learn a little bit about houses. You're going to learn a lot about people.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that. So how long have you had your sales course? When did you start that?
So I started really thinking about it in March, and there were some people who were consistently coming to Power Hour. And I said, hey, let me just kind of put you guys through a beta test. Let me even see if I enjoy this. So I put
Mhm.
them through about a month and a half of the course. They really liked it. Andrea Arriaga was one of them, Jeremy Montoya, Jennifer, Francesca, Luis Fajardo, his wife Daisy, Justin Birch. They all went through it. They really got a lot out of it. I enjoyed it. And so pretty much in May, it went live. And so there's a couple of courses in there. There's, what I call closer school is kind of the basic one. Then there's closer grad school where we have weekly Zooms and we do call calibration. And then I actually made a course for onboarding cold callers. Like I can take a cold caller from zero to hero setting appointments, because man, training VAs, that is a high maintenance job and it's
Mhm.
extremely disruptive to a business owner if you're having to train this VA. So that was another product I was actually asked to make. So I have those offerings.
Okay. And that's an online course. It's available to anybody.
Yeah, they're all in Kajabi. You just reach out to me, say, Jeff, I really want to talk about this. I'm having this particular issue, my cold caller, I'm having issues closing, say, let me make sure that this lines up for you because I'm not here to just sell you garbage. And if I'm like, yeah, I think this does make sense for you, then yeah, we'll plug you into Kajabi and off you go.
Cool, cool. So tell me about the daily dials. I want to ask about the daily dials. How long have you been doing that with Caroline Cain?
Oh gosh, I feel like I've been doing that for a year and a half. It's been a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah.
So did you get a lot out of that? Did they approach you for those?
Yeah. So when I first got into SubTo, it was really it was right after I closed that deal with the developer. Joined SubTo, Daily Dial was going, and I was kind of in this mindset like I am going to master this. So I was on Daily Dial every single day with Ty, um, who's out of California, super guy,
Mhm.
have a lot of respect for him, and he was instructing us, and I would role play every single day that I got to get better, and you do that for several months and be consistent, and I think it was like 6 7 months later or whatever. Caroline just said, "Hey, need a quick substitute. Somebody's out of town, and you seem to be doing pretty well. Do you want to run Daily Dial?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" So did it. Told her afterwards, like, "Hey, I really really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. If I can ever substitute again, please let me know." And not too much longer after that, she said, "Hey, will you be a regular? Because Ty doing this 5 days a week is insane, and we probably should rotate people instead." So that's how that happened. And I get a lot of joy out of it, just seeing people grow and improve. And I do actually enjoy teaching. I think it's fun.
No, it looks like fun, and I don't get to do those enough. And you're right. I really like those role playing. I got to get more involved with those, but work gets in the way right now. So I'm trying to figure out ways to do other role playing. Because I get off of work and I go right to calling for Michael. So it's like, yeah, I might need to take a break and do some role playing, get my skills better. Because I don't feel my conversation skills in this area and my listening skills are up to par. So. All right, let me ask you another question. How do you stay motivated and overcome rejection in the sales process, especially in with these? How do you stay focused on the task at hand?
I mean, it's not an easy thing. Anybody who tells you otherwise is trying to sell you something. So for me, I'm kind of engineer brain, so I like seeing my KPIs, my key performance indicators. I like seeing I've achieved the number of dials per day. I like seeing the leads per contract ratio. I like seeing that.
Mm,
So that is something I've had to discover what can drive me a little bit, but that's not even like a fundamental why either. And I always used to think I didn't have a fundamental, like I don't want it bad enough, but I want it somewhat enough. So, part of what drives me every day is I can say, look, I can either work super hard and figure out what it takes to make this business work, or I can go back to my W 2 and kill time. And that is not to say that we, jumped off the gate and we're just killing it immediately. It's taken us years to truly figure this out, to get it to the point where it's a productive business because there's so much noise out there that, I mean, you can just get overwhelmed with this product and that product and the new shiny object that's going to make you $10,000 every, second that you're not working. It's just crazy.
mhm. So tell me about your team. How many people you have on your team right now?
Yeah. So for the direct to seller business, which is just wholesale and fix and flip, it's myself, my business partner Regina White. We also teamed up with guy Andrew Arriaga, who's another one of the leaders in the Houston SubTo community, and who's always I met him through Power Hour. Like he showed up there, so became one of the lieutenants of that one. Now he's a leader. So it's the three partners we squad up together. I mostly handle the lead gen, acquisition, follow up, getting the contracts. Regina focuses on underwriting and systems, making sure all the processes are going smoothly, watching over that. Andrew is handling the dispositions and he'll also oversee the flips, although we've had to get a project manager because there's going to be four at once and Andrew's still juggling a few things. And then underneath that, we have a few VAs who work for us as well. One of them really helps whenever I get a new contract. She really goes through a checklist of just getting the ball rolling, getting stuff to title, getting seller information, that kind of stuff. And then
Okay.
there's another VA who helps me with follow-up calls. Anybody who's ghosted us or somebody who just wasn't ready, he keeps calling that list to see, if we can get anybody back.
All right. Do you have overseas VAs?
Yes, they're based in the Philippines.
Okay. Can you provide some tips of effective sales prospecting and lead generation, especially in this business? What's a way to generate leads in this business? If you can give up that information.
Yeah, no, 100% I will. So I think one of the things that I'm really starting to learn a lot more now, because I've tried everything. I've cold called, direct mail, done PPC, we've tried all kinds of stuff, right? So what it appears to be is that bulk cold calling and bulk SMS, just blasting the masses,
Mm-hmm.
is just highly ineffective because we're not targeting anybody. Like, we as investors, we're trying to target people who have a problem that the traditional market can't solve. I
Okay.
have a problem, I can't solve it, and I need help. That's the person I'm looking for. But when we do a blanket blast, we're having so much time to sort through the tire kickers and I'll sell for the right price type stuff. It's just crazy. So instead, we should be, if we're going to do outbound marketing, we need to be highly targeted as to somebody who's really going to have a problem that we need to help. We have basically walked away from outbound marketing as of now, and instead redirected our focus to inbound marketing, where somebody raises their hand and says, I want to sell the house, and they reach out to us. You do that through direct mail, which is an inbound campaign because they call in. PPC is one of them, or pay per lead is another inbound mechanism. So anyway, so that's kind of my mantra for that. The other thing to really consider is that if you want to do a direct to seller business, there is kind of a minimum dollar pay to play. Like, you can't spend $500 a month and expect to generate a contract. Like, our cost per contract in the PPL, the market average is something like, I don't know, even if it was 5 grand a contract, like, you would have to, in theory, spend 5,000 a month if you're going to cough up one contract,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if you only spent 2,500, you're not going to get one for 2 months. But the math doesn't even work that way. You're more
Okay.
likely to get nothing. Like, there's a critical mass that has to happen. So we're spending a little over about 15 grand a month, and that generates one or two contracts a week consistently. And
Okay.
so it's consistency coupled with you have to get into it and spend if you're going to do that business. On the other hand, what I also tell people is, when you get started, your goal shouldn't be to just start throwing money at it right away. Your goal should be, how do I enter with the least amount of expense possible to build up some momentum? And then if I want to go and spend money on marketing, I can. So direct to agent is basically zero, because the listings are live, the phone numbers are there. It might be a little more difficult, but I would rather start, if I did this all over again, that's probably where I'd start and keep my marketing spend low, use an Excel spreadsheet as my CRM or a notebook, and my cell phone, and go from there.
Okay. So what's your avatar now? When you started, what was your avatar?
So I always selected the closer type to be my
Mm-hmm.
avatar. I'm happy to do direct to seller. I'm happy to do direct to agent. I think for me, what it seems to be is that, mm, I don't always look at it in terms of an avatar. I look at it in terms of, what is the target audience that I seem to personally be most efficient with.
Okay.
I appear to be most effective with probate leads because I think my empathy is very, very good. And I think the other group of people also seem to be very effective with are uh, kind of that business person, kind of the no nonsense business types. Like, look, Jeff, I'm here to do a deal. Just tell me what it is.
Okay.
So that was very helpful when I was chasing all these land deals. I mean, there was a guy who was a judge, right? Not a bad guy, but also a no nonsense. Like he just like tell me what the deal is. And so those are
Hmm.
the two target audiences I seem to be very good with. And that can be an agent or that can be a seller, but
Yeah.
it's closer.
Probably get that from the oil and gas field.
Uh, Probably, because again, I study this stuff pretty hard. So by the time I get on a call and they have questions, I can answer a lot of them. But I've also learned by studying sales is if I don't have the answer, just to kind of bob and weave with it and say, you know what, Steve, that's a darn good question. You know, I feel like I should know this, but I don't. But I'm going to write this down. I'm going to find out. I kind of want to know that myself. But it's
Hmm.
always this display of confidence. Like you haven't rattled me because you've asked me a different question.
Right. Now, I've noticed that too in the sales I do. I always have to, they throw side balls all the time. It's like, "Well, I'm going to have to find the answer and get back with you on that. I'm not an encyclopedia on these things. I know what I know, and I'll find out, though. I don't have a problem finding out and getting you the answer."
Right.
So, what role does effective communication play in sales? And how do you ensure clear and impactful communication with your clients?
So some of it has been through my personal experience, learning how to be more effective at communicating, and then again studying it. The reason I say that is when I was in the Middle East, I was in Saudi Arabia. And when you're in that part of the world, and especially in heavy construction, there are over a dozen different cultures converging in one spot. And there's only one common language, English. Right? You have the Pakistanis who are speaking Urdu. You have the Indians speaking Hindi and a variety of dialects. The Chinese are out there. The Koreans are out there. The Japanese, Australians, the Americans, different European countries. It's a whole smorgasbord of just a variety of stuff, one language in common. And it's not their first, right? So if you're going to operate in this area, and particularly in my role, which was site project engineer, which is kind of the hub of communications from the home office, home engineering office to the guys in the field. And it's not like the guys in the field couldn't speak English, but again, it's not their first. So I had to learn to be very careful and enunciate very clearly and slowly to make sure that the message was understood by everybody. So I learned through maybe a little bit of trial and error. I think I was already kind of good at this, but to make sure that whatever they were talking about was understood. And if they were nodding a little uncertainty, then I was like, no, you didn't understand it. I need to try something else. So that has now translated to real estate where I'm always listening for these cues and always asking myself, am I producing a message that a fifth grader could understand? Not because I think the person is stupid, but because I want the information to be very accessible. Because if I start, that's why you don't speak in jargon, not because the person can't learn new vocabulary, but it should be so accessible. They're like, oh, yeah, no, 100%. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Communication is important. I know that. It's been a struggle. This has been a struggle with me. I was a hermit for a long time in electrical for a water pump company and oil and gas, but I worked in just out in the warehouse by myself, kind of just keeping so getting back into conversations and doing sales changed. I changed my job and career last year in 2022 to go to drone sales. I got really into flying drones, and so started drone sales and then came into this and meet you guys that make it look easy. You guys just
It
make it look
didn't,
easy.
we make it look easy now, but it didn't start that way. And so I just want to encourage anybody like, did I come out the gate with a little bit of raw talent? Yeah, probably. But it doesn't mean like that was the end. Like I had to work hard to augment my skills to get there. So just want to
Mhm.
encourage everybody like just because you see a bunch of people doing really well, I was there. I didn't think I'd be that good, but you can work hard at it and you can get there.
So what are your goals moving forward now with your sales, with your sales training and stuff like that? What's the plan moving forward?
Yeah, so right now I'm concentrating very, very hard on the direct to sell wholesale business because I want to eventually get that to a place where I've hired that out, where we have a sales director, we have acquisition, we have dispo, and let that be a money producing machine that's automated. And I can help with that because I am a sales trainer. So, I think I can effectively get that in place. And then Regina, Andrew, and I, like I've always said, like, look, I don't want to live in wholesaling houses the rest of my life. It's a great business, it does good, but I want to go whale hunting. I want to be able to go chase down multifamilies. I want to go be able to chase down my land development deals. I want to go do subdivides. These are fun projects, but there's one major problem. All of those things, as cool as they are, they take forever. And so cash flow becomes an issue in a business. So if
Okay.
I'm going to go hunt big game, I need to have the cash flow business established that's pumping out consistent checks every month so I can go swing for the fences and the grand slams.
All right. So can you plug your business one more time? Tell us how people can get a hold of you. Do you have a website, your YouTube, Instagram, all that? And I'm going to ask you to also email me your links so I can put them in the description when I go to post this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So the best thing to do, guys, just look me up on Instagram, jeff.r.w.smith. And when you go there, there's a link tree, and that'll get you to the YouTube channel. That'll get you to the Facebook group. So the YouTube channel is really for closer school, call calibrations, that kind of stuff. And then the rest of the Instagram and YouTube page are really about sales.
Cool. So you can find them also if you're in SubTo. You can find them on the Daily Dials with Caroline Cain on what usually it's what mornings. That's Wednesday and Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
So right now, my designated spot is the Friday Daily Dial, and that's on the East Coast one. So that's 7 to 9 Central Time, and Arizona kind of does its own thing. I think it's 5 to 7 Arizona.
All right, cool deal. Thank you for your time. I thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you, and I'm going to look to make you a regular. I wanted to start trying to do some. I have some other ideas with doing the podcast, maybe doing some lessons and stuff, or doing to work on my cold calling. I've been thinking about trying to do a cold calling session too, maybe. So or role playing sessions on here. I'm thinking about it, but I might talk to you more about that later. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on, and we'll talk to you more later. I got to keep you on for a few minutes and let it download from your end. So I'll end the recording and keep you on chatting a few
Cool.
minutes.
Thanks for having me on the show.